Who did I need to become in order to survive?
Who am I if I am not taking care of others?
Mm,
Who am I? What kind of worth do I even have
right,
if I'm not helping fix other people's problems
right,
for them
right.
or being a good listener?
Mm. These are the questions that I believe are an absolute prerequisite that we don't get to actually step into our healing without examining these questions. What we start to unravel are all of the coping mechanisms and the patterns and the adaptations and really how we have contorted ourselves in order to survive. And all of those need to be dismantled in order for us to live our most authentic selves. This is The Becoming, a podcast about the sacred and powerful journey of awakening and becoming who you truly are.
We're your hosts, Kate and Judy Moon. As a mother-daughter duo with many years of experience in coaching and personal transformation and lifetimes of wisdom between us, together we explore what it truly means to come alive, living with deeper meaning and purpose, breaking generational chains, reclaiming freedom, and guiding the soul's return to wholeness.
Through soulful conversations about healing, transformation, and the power of MDMA-assisted therapy, along with raw, behind-the-scenes reflections and insights that illuminate the path forward, we invite you into a journey that's not just about healing your past. It's about breaking through the invisible barriers that have kept you stuck and finally stepping into the life you've always known you were meant for.
Whether you're in the middle of a heartbreak, an awakening, a breakdown, or a breakthrough, you're not alone. This is The Becoming.
The topic that we wanted to dive into today has been actually a hot topic among our clients of late. And it's all about who did I need to become in order to survive?
In order to be loved, in order to be accepted, in order to be seen and acknowledged and heard. Who did I need to become?
What adaptations did I need to put on? How did I need to contort myself in my family of origin? There have been studies done with newborn babies who are literally only 5 hours old. And as long as someone is close enough to them, so a newborn baby can only see about 12 inches in front of their face. So
Bless their little hearts.
as long as someone is 12 inches or closer to them, a newborn baby that is only 5 hours old will start to mirror the facial expressions and the movement of someone who's put their face in front of them.
You know, it's a way of them like waking up to this world and responding to their environment. If you can really just imagine that they are awake enough to know that their survival depends on that human that is either present or not present.
What it speaks so much to me about is how from the very beginning, we literally look into the eyes of the people around us for love, for validation, to get our needs met, to know that we're okay.
The ramifications of this, needless to say, are huge.
Huge.
This is how we are literally wired,
How we're
that we
wired.
can only know ourselves by the caregivers, the people that are caring for us, that are around us, caring or not caring,
Mm-hmm.
our deservability, our worthiness. We can only know that
Mm-hmm.
through the eyes of others. And so the poignancy of that is huge. The question is, how can we ever really know ourselves? Because is it true that we're as worthy as our caregiver, perhaps, or our parents, our elders, whoever's caring for us? Is that accurate? Is
That we're
that
only as worthy as the reflection
of somebody
of somebody
else?
else.
So do you think there might be a little problem with that as we grow and evolve into our own unique individual selves? Do we ever really know ourselves until then we begin to ask the question, who am I truly?
Who am I really in my core, in the core of my being?
Not because of how others have responded to me, loved me or accepted me or whatever, but who am I?
Something that we talk about a lot is the concept of notice what you're noticing.
Mm.
And most of us, frankly, sleepwalk through life. We sleepwalk through school. We sleepwalk through marriage. We sleepwalk through raising children. That's really the vast majority of this world. And people continue to run patterns and really survival patterns and old coping mechanisms that become patterns until the time comes, usually, that we're in enough pain that we start to examine them, that we start to wake up, that we start to become aware of how our behavior, how our patterns are impacting us and the people around us,
And how constrictive they are.
how actually they're ruining our lives.
They're totally ruining our lives. And we look at them and say, is that truly something that is true about me?
Yeah.
Is this how I want to live my life?
Is this who I want to be?
Yeah. And back to the original question, Kate,
Yeah.
is honestly, who did we believe that we needed to be in order to be loved and to survive in this world and to be cared for and all of that? It's those around us that gave us those patterns, truly.
And these are the questions that I believe are an absolute prerequisite that we don't get to actually step into our healing without examining these questions, which is why we're wanting to bring this here, because we have found this to be such a powerful question. Because what we start to unravel are all of the coping mechanisms and the patterns and the adaptations, and really how we have contorted ourselves in order to survive. And all of those need to be dismantled in order for us to live our most authentic selves.
So we get to a certain point in our lives and we wake up to the fact that I've been spending most of my life trying to please people,
Mm.
pretzeling myself into someone that they want me to be, not someone who is authentically me necessarily. And then I look around and say, so what authentically is me? If I've always gotten my validation from the outside world, this is where we self-abandoned,
Mm.
that we received our validation from the outside and not from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't meet our own needs, instead, we're looking outside and making sure that we're meeting everybody else's needs, but not mine. It's a moment to awaken to, honestly.
Yeah.
And it is something that we don't as you said, Kate, we don't wake up to until we're in enough pain and discomfort. And or we look at our lives and it's just not working. We feel this sense of constriction that I am not living the life that I've always wanted to live, even though if I didn't even know what that life was.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that we all have this inner compass
Mm-hmm.
that is our soul is yearning to wake up to.
It
Yes,
is.
yeah, you got it. And then we follow that. But until we have that, we're living somebody else's version of a life that they see for us. And you can imagine, parents raise children and they want them to do X, Y, and Z, and they place their own personal issues on their children. Maybe they didn't do very well in school, and boy, their kids are going to go to college no matter what, even if their child really wants to go to an art school,
Mm.
or they don't have any expectations for their child. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
you go do you, boo. There's like no direction.
Right.
And the child slash teenager slash, young adult just kind of flounders through life
Yeah.
without any guidance.
Yeah.
It's so based on that guidance that we get early on or that we don't.
Absolutely.
And then at some point, we all have to really claim what's ours, what is our true north.
Mm-hmm.
what is ours to do and or be and or like become.
Mhm.
And it's a little messy on the way.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not like a straight narrow path. It's stumbling. It's falling on our face. It's learning. That's how we learn.
And I think that there's a cultural narrative out there that if we are stumbling, if we are falling flat on our face, that somehow we're failing, that that means that we're failing, when really what it means is that we're actually finding our target.
And we pretend, because we learn that, like somehow I have to look good on the
Right.
outside. And then
None of us like to be adult learners.
no, I don't like it at all. I don't like to fall flat on my face. Do you?
No.
But it is so part of how we learn and we grow. And especially when we didn't know who we were, sometimes, just because of how we were raised in families that had certain expectations for us that maybe we didn't have for ourselves. If we want to find our own path, then that truly is going to be, we're going to get some bruised knees and maybe some bloody elbows
Mhm.
along the way. And we have to be willing to do that. And it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable.
Well, if this were comfortable, then way more people would be doing
Would be
this.
doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to who did I need to be to survive? When we explore this with clients,
Mhm.
the really common answers that we get are I needed to be invisible.
Mm.
I needed to be silent. I needed to make an agreement with the family secrets, and I needed to be one of the secret keepers in the family.
And how I thought or how I believed or how I was showing it, but really didn't matter. That we weren't taken seriously when we spoke our truth in the family collective.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't necessarily welcomed. So
Mm-hmm.
we learned squash, that's
Mm-hmm.
not okay.
Exactly.
Or we spoke up to one parent, but we didn't to another parent. And to the one parent that we spoke up to, generally speaking, it might have been someone who we felt more confrontational with, but maybe the other parent was like our saving grace. And God forbid, to be honest, to speak up to bad behavior to our saving grace, who was there basically, who would come in and rescue.
Well, and the truth of it is that none of us as children could leave the family system. We couldn't leave the situation. You can't go and get an apartment and divorce your parents when you were 3, 5, 7 years old.
It's like we couldn't say you all here are
You're all
insane.
insane.
You're all insane.
Here we are
So
in the mental
so
institution.
I'm out of here.
No.
No, and we
So we
did.
learn to adapt. We have to adapt inside of the family
We do.
system to survive.
And I don't even know, like consciously, we don't even necessarily know that it's insanity. It's just that it's something is off.
Something I hear really commonly is that I knew something was totally effed up about this. I sensed it, but I could never put words to it, which is totally normal.
Well, and it's normal because it's the water we've been swimming in. It's normal to us, even when it doesn't necessarily feel so normal.
It's really beautiful to look at the survival strategies of a very young one and look at how brilliant it was, how they learned how to survive inside of that system. It's brilliant, and I think that we can all look back on our little selves and bring a massive eye of compassion to this little being that did what it needed to do to survive. But the thing, and this is where we start to notice what we're noticing, is that as the decades tick on, we are still tending to run those same survival strategies, and they start to ruin our lives. They are no longer cute. They're actually not keeping us safe anymore. They're keeping us sick and mentally, in pain,
Completely stuck.
totally stuck.
They don't work in relationships anymore, new relationships. They don't work in any,
In any self-expression venture. So
no.
let's imagine if someone has a survival strategy of, I need to stay silent and invisible in order to be safe, in order to be loved, in order to be validated. And then later in life, they have a big dream that's coming for them that requires them to be really visible, that requires them to use their voice in a powerful way. If you are running an old pattern that says that I am not safe if I'm using my voice, you will never get out there and be able to use your voice for good.
And you will never know why you aren't doing it until you actually begin to get uncomfortable enough to begin to search inside why it is, what it is that is stopping you
Mhm.
from speaking your voice. It's the greatest secret. How would you even know until you began to search? And where did that begin? Where did you first learn that it wasn't safe to speak up to the adults? Where did you learn that it wasn't safe to be honest and truthful?
Or welcome to be honest or truthful. It wasn't safe,
Definitely.
it wasn't welcome. The point you make is so good because it's not like any of this is conscious. We don't know why we're stuck. We don't know why we're in pain. We don't know why we are in so much angst later on until we shine the light of awareness on questions like this of who did I need to be to survive? And we start to do that deep inner work of asking, who did I need to be loved by my mother? Who did I need to be for my father or any of the primary caretakers in our lives? Who did I actually need to be? How did I need to show up? What were their expectations of me? And then we start to see how the pattern continues over years and decades.
And I'm going to say, Kate, that there is a big chasm between beginning to ask that question and actually having the courage to go there, because we don't know what's on the other side of that.
Mhm.
And it feels very threatening. And there's been a reason why we have not gone to those harder places, because that means we have to look at some things that were really, for many of us, very painful.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that quiet secret that we have inside of ourselves, that something is not right with me. If I start digging for it, I don't know what's going to be on the other side of that. So if I kind of just stay safe where I am right now, you know, I'm good
Hmm.
until we are not good anymore. That we just, and that's what we find so often with our clients. They just get to this place of, I have been ultimately in pain my whole life.
Yeah.
I know something is off. I
Yep.
know that I'm like meant to live a bigger life. I'm meant to do something that lights me up, and I don't know why I can't seem to like get moving.
Hmm.
I don't know what's in my way.
I'm spinning my wheels, or I'm doing all the things I know to do, and it's not happening. I think that one of the reasons that we often hold ourselves back from waking up to the awareness of what has happened is actually because of deep, deep loyalty we have to people in our past or in our present.
And that loyalty, Kate, really comes back to safety.
Hmm.
It always comes back to safety, because we knew that we needed to be loyal and in agreement with those that were caring for us. It literally is a mechanism that we have within us for survival.
Absolutely.
And so that loyalty is blinding,
Mhm.
and it's crushing, and it kills the soul. And the soul is wanting to expand and wake up and to grow. And that sense of loyalty is like, oh, it's like this tether that's pulling us back. It's this tug of war, because if I needed to be X, Y, and Z for those who love me, if I'm not loyal to that agreement that we made, that unspoken agreement, then I'm not safe.
I'm no longer part of the
The
tribe.
clan. And that is, again, right down primal
Very.
safety.
I think it's really important, and this is part of the healing journey, is to take off the rose-colored glasses. And it doesn't mean that we are actually holding on to resentment or bitterness or blame, but it means that at least we're seeing things clearly. And it can be very confrontational just within ourselves to start seeing things clearly for the first time, to be like, wow, actually this person that I thought was always so there for me, like where were they when some really bad stuff was going down? They weren't actually protecting me. So what we'll do is we actually hide the truth from ourselves.
What you're talking about here, Kate, is denial.
Of course.
We live in denial.
Of
We don't
course.
really want to look at it
We don't really want to
square
look
in the
at it.
face. It's too painful because we don't want to see that I think often we can't see them as real human beings. And if we really see them as real human beings, again, we have to recognize they didn't protect me, did they?
When you say real human beings, do you mean flawed,
Yeah,
fallible human beings?
yeah,
Messy.
messy.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I have a lot of compassion. Here's the thing. I have
Mhm.
a lot of
Yeah.
compassion for human beings who are flawed and messy and working on themselves, but they're honest about it. Like they're
Mhm.
working on themselves. But when people are self-righteous and in their messiness and hurting other people around them, and when someone has the goodwill of like really wanting to grow and be different,
And take
take a
accountability.
and recognize, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I had no idea.
I was asleep.
I was asleep. That's what I learned. And not to make excuses,
Yeah.
but I strive to do better.
Absolutely. And I think that the more willing we are to step out of the denial
Yeah.
and look at things clearly with really what did occur, it's not about holding on to resentment. It's not about blaming people from our past, but it's about taking full accountability of how those adaptations shaped us in our current lives and how then we can wake up more, how we can break out of those patterns so that we have more agency to live the life that's actually important to us.
And that's actually our own job now.
It is.
You know, we are the adults in the room
Yeah.
now. That's our job. Some behavior is not okay.
Yeah.
Let's just call a spade a
Yeah.
spade. That we don't make excuses for other people's bad behavior.
And you know why? So we mentioned, I think you mentioned self-abandonment
Mhm,
earlier.
mhm.
There's a whole can of worms to be opened up around self-abandoning. So when we're making excuses for other people, what that actually is that we're abandoning ourselves and our own needs in
Yeah,
that moment.
yeah.
When we're saying what occurred or what's occurring right now, that's okay. It's all right. You don't really know any better. I'm going to close my mouth. I'm going to turn a blind eye. What it means is that we're abandoning our own selves.
I can't tell you how many times I'm across with someone in a coaching session and they when they begin to wake up to no, actually, that's not okay. That wasn't okay. And that is one of the hardest things that people begin to do. But it's the most freeing thing
It
that they
is.
begin to do because instead of turning around and blaming themselves, blaming myself, they actually can see it for the first time accurately.
Mhm.
That they're beginning to see themselves accurately. That they were children. And we're talking, we're talking childhood stuff
Mhm.
here. And we're talking, later in life stuff too. That sometimes it takes a lifetime to learn to speak up and say what you've always needed and wanted to say, but we're terrified to do so because you thought it was all along your fault
Mhm.
until we wake up and recognize, no, we begin to see it clearly. No,
Mhm.
that it was really someone else who had the upper hand, who had the
Mhm.
influence
Mhm.
that was still had so much power and agency over me. And
Mhm.
I didn't even know it until I wake up.
Yeah.
And that's when we no longer self-abandon. That is when healing comes. That is where peace comes. That is where we can look at our lives and know that we, maybe for the first time, are in our own driver's seat.
Mhm.
Yeah. Self-respect.
And we start making incremental changes that actually our true north becomes, how do I be there for myself? How do I, in the most loving way, meet my own needs first when maybe I have spent my entire life, and this is really speaking to the women
Mhm.
out there in particular, when I've spent my entire life making sure that I am meeting the needs of everyone else around me, that I'm always looking for how do I show up? How do I be the most present? What can I actually do? How do I be of service? How do I give more to the people around me?
How can I be better? How can I be better?
And that it's never enough. It's this like bucket with a hole in the bottom of just giving, giving, giving. And there's nothing where we turn it around on ourselves.
That is clearly how we were raised as women, and, shall I say, almost the definition of motherhood
Mhm.
to an extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's such a gift to be able to love others and to give of ourselves to others and care for our children, care for our loved ones.
Yeah.
And yet, yeah, in our family, it was always, like, who's going to eat the broken
I knew you were
egg?
going to say the broken
The
egg.
broken egg.
Mom
And
gets the broken egg.
mom gets the broken egg, but it's such a metaphor
It
for
is.
how mothers just acquiesce to everybody else's needs. And then it becomes a real pattern.
Right.
And then the kids begin to see how their mother is behaving, and they learn. Whether if they're girls, little girls, they learn what's going to be expected of them. And if they're little boys, they learn what their wife is going to do or
Mhm.
their partner, and they learn how dad doesn't necessarily eat the broken egg, but mom does. I mean,
Mhm.
all this stuff is such learned
It
behavior.
really
But if
is.
we never look at it and say, is that still okay?
Our power is in waking up to the patterns that we have been running unconsciously and really bringing our current selves to that pattern and saying, is this still okay with me? Is this actually serving me? Is this helping me to create the life that I really desire? Does this give me agency?
Exactly. Underscoring that. We have to do it for ourselves because no one out there, oh, are you getting your needs met, Kate?
Yeah.
How can I take care
Oh,
of
let me
you?
grab that laundry basket from you.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
no,
No,
no. It really does not happen.
no.
So this is the whole thing about
Yeah.
self-abandoning and recognizing that it's not selfish to take care of our own needs. And that is such a lesson to be learned.
That really the best way to deliver our greatest gifts to the world is when we are filled up ourselves. These are platitudes that we hear all the time of like, we can't pour from an empty cup. We have to put our own oxygen mask on first, but are we actually doing it? Because for most of us, we have a very, very long standing pattern of pretty much only self abandoning for everyone else around us.
And it's not just us, it's everybody that lives around us that are also expecting us to
That's
self-abandon.
right.
I mean, we're speaking right now from the woman's point of
Of
view,
course.
but it's kind of it's the patterns that we are raised with. So what does it look like when a woman begins to wake up and recognize, this actually is not serving anybody else for me to be, but
Self sacrificing.
self-sacrificing. No, it doesn't serve anybody else. That it really serves them to be able to learn that it's their job to step in and to participate, and that we're not always the ones that are the self-sacrificing souls.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not selfish. This is one of the things that I can't say how often this conversation comes up with women feeling when they begin to wake up and see the patterns that have been run in their family, but it's still in their bodies. It's somatically, it lives there. And they begin to think, oh my gosh, well, if I changed, if I no longer behave this way, I don't know who I would be.
I don't know who I would be.
I don't know who I would be.
Who am I now?
I don't even know who I am.
And that's
What
something
are my interests?
I've had many clients say before we get enter into a journey, really break down and say, I don't even know who I really am.
Yeah.
Like I've been here, I have been so present for everyone else. And I've followed the path that was ahead of me, that was set, the trajectory that was set for me when I was so young. And I've been, again, really sleepwalking through so much of my life without even realizing that I was sleepwalking. And now I'm starting to really wake up. I'm in pain. I'm not happy. I don't feel like I'm giving my gifts. I don't feel fulfilled. And I'm looking around and it's like, oh my gosh.
And I've been a caregiver my whole life.
Right.
I've been looking around, and I didn't even know that in order to be loved, I had to take care of everybody else. I
Right.
grew up really at a young age.
Mhm.
And that's my role. That's who I am. That's who I know myself to be. Who am I if I am not taking care of others?
Mm,
Who am I? What kind of worth do I even have
right.
if I'm not helping fix other people's problems
Right.
for them,
Right.
or being a good listener,
Mm.
or stepping in?
Someone whose work we both really admire is Dr. Gabor Mate. And he teaches extensively about trauma, about addiction. But one of the things that he talks about is that there are really only two choices for a child when they have a need that's coming up. And if it is, if it's not being addressed by the parent, they have they have a choice. Let's say that there's, anger coming up or there's a tantrum that's coming up. They have the choice to either self abandon and be inauthentic to themselves and meet the need of the parent in that moment,
And be the good boy or
be the good
good
little
boy
boy or
or girl.
girl,
Yes.
or swing to the other side of the spectrum and be authentic to themselves. But actually being authentic to themselves typically is not welcome or allowed in the family system. So it is wired into us so early on to constantly be in a state of self-abandoning.
I mean, what we're really talking about, Kate, is being exiled.
Yeah.
It goes back to the primal days. It is not safe. We are our tribal community,
We are.
and if we don't fit in, if we don't agree with the community, the tribe, then we will be literally exiled,
Yeah.
and that is literally death. That means death.
So what
It's
we
wired into our nervous system.
it is.
Yeah.
So, what we have really uncovered in our own healing and why we're speaking to this and what we work so deeply with our clients around is again the question of who did I need to become in order to survive? We start to see those patterns, we start to awaken to them. And it's only when we awaken to them that we can begin to dismantle them and put together to actually start building a more authentic way of showing up for ourselves and showing up in the world.
An example of how this might backfire
Yes.
on us as
Yeah.
adults is that we begin to notice, or maybe other people notice, probably other people notice before we do, that we show up at times and we have this passive aggressive behavior, that someone's behavior, we don't like something, but instead of coming out and be able to communicate what our needs are and why we don't like how someone's behaving, then we become passive aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
that we're not direct, but we say something that's unkind and a dig, and nobody likes that.
Right.
And this is how we've learned how to navigate our lives, because as a child, something occurred. You were pissed off.
There was an injustice.
There was a true injustice. And it was like, no, this truly is insane. But you were not allowed to ever speak your truth.
You weren't
Or when
allowed,
you did, you were sent away, like literally exiled. I mean,
literally exiled
and
to
a
your
child
room.
going to
Yeah.
their room at a
That's what
young
it feels
age
like.
is
It feels
exiled.
like exile.
And so one learns, well, if I can't be mad and be safe to say what I feel, if my feelings are not heard or
Or
accepted
validated.
or
Yeah.
validated, then I got to get it out somewhere.
I'm gonna make sure that it comes out here. Like that my point
Exactly.
is still made.
My point, damn it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make
Yeah.
that point. And then it becomes a really, really bad habit as an adult. It's something that is nobody can live with someone who's a passive aggressive person.
Right. I mean, but that makes so much sense that as, a young person,
It's a brilliant
it's
adaptation.
brilliant to be able to still feel like your voice is being heard in some way. But then you have decades and decades that go by and you get into all these various relationships and you really do want to bring your authentic self and build a real deep connection. But if that continues to surface, then it's going to undermine the very foundation of the relationship.
The bottom line is you never get what you wanted. As a child, even with that passive aggressive behavior or comment later, you're still not getting what you wanted. You wanted to be validated. You wanted to
Heard.
be heard. You wanted to be valued enough that your opinion mattered.
Right.
And as an adult, what do you think happens? You're not becoming heard. You're not validated. Actually, what's happening is that you're being rejected.
Right.
And then the cycle continues.
And the cycle
And the
continues.
cycle continues.
And we stay miserable until we begin to wake up.
Okay, so here's the value that we're talking about is when we can begin to see behavior that we used as adaptation as a child, and we begin to see that we are behaving in the same way as adults, and it's not working. Oh, then we can connect the dots.
Yes.
I did this because of that as a child. This is not working as an adult.
Right.
Maybe I could learn some skill sets of how to communicate in a way to express something that I'm not happy with or I don't like, but just be honest about it. And I don't have to be passive aggressive. I can just share my heart. I can share my own truth.
Because now it feels safe to actually be able to do that.
And if it doesn't feel safe, then we have to reevaluate the relationship itself.
Right. This is so important. This is such a cornerstone in all of our healing, is to start making the subconscious conscious, is that we start to wake up to it, that we start to wake up to our own patterns. We start to understand where they came from. We can have compassion for ourselves and even for the people that help to install that operating system. But we now free ourselves to be able to have the agency to do it differently. And that is where real healing and real freedom really comes from.
And to not go back, as you said, Kate, not to go back, more accurately put, to have that level of compassion for those who installed that operating system to begin with. Not that it's ever okay, but if we can just imagine for a moment what maybe needed to occur in their lives. You know, even when there was bad behavior, we can, as adults, look back and understand that our parents, our caregivers, they learned their patterns somewhere too.
They did.
Though they could be messy. If we can just hold a corner of our heart open to the idea that most of them didn't intend to hurt us.
Of course.
I would hope to be able to believe that most of them, I can't say all, but most of them did not intend to hurt us, and that they were operating from their own patterns, and they had not become conscious yet.
Right.
So guess what? We get to do this with our own awakening and awareness. We get to do this. This is where it gets to stop with us, that we don't have to carry this along in the generations. I mean, you know, we have a generation right here, right here before us. And
we've actually taken it really seriously that this is something that is ours to do, that we recognize that the generations that came before, other people in the family, that they're not really interested in looking at this or doing this work, but we are.
We are. And if we can presence this in the world, that maybe more and more of this can occur.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for listening today. This is a really a conversation that's so close to our hearts, and we're really thrilled to be able to open up this conversation, open up maybe some new thoughts and considerations and awarenesses for you. And as always, we'll see you in the next episode where we're going to continue the conversation.
Thank you so much for listening to The Becoming.
We'd love for you to join our growing community. Please subscribe to the podcast, share this episode with a friend, and leave a 5-star review.
It truly means the world to us and helps others to find their way here too. We'll see you in the next episode.